It is the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the Brisbane Broncos. Brisbane welcome back some key players, which could potentially make this game a little closer than first expected. But South's pretty much unchanged. They seem to be going through a decent spell without major injuries to first team players. I mean, when you look to the Broncos, you've still got Darius Boyd at the fullback. Staggs back in centre with Farnworth, Coates on the wing with Kenner. Croft comes into 6 because there is no Anthony Milford. He is gone for 4 to 6 weeks. Realistically, that could take a little longer with the grade of hamstring strain that he has suffered, meaning that if the Broncos do not make the final, his 2020 season may be done. And the big inclusion there as well in the 11 shirt, the return of David Fifita Jr. How much he can lift the Broncos forward pack, I don't know, but it could be closer than first expected.
The immediate thing that stands out for me, and so I have all of my tips listed down, as I do every week, as well as the betting tips that we give. I have tipped bunnies, but the thing that stands out for me is that David Fifita has only played 2 games this year, round 1, round 2, prior to COVID. The Broncos won those 2 games. And it was because their forward pack absolutely dominated. Now, as much as I like Matthew Lodge as a player, I think that this is the strongest forward pack that the Broncos have in their stocks at the moment. Thomas Flegler is great. Turpin, yeah, you can argue whether Turpin's the future 9 for the Broncos now, but he has Isaac Luke on the bench who gives a good 15, 20-minute spark. We don't need to talk about Payne Haas. He's just a gun. David Fifita on his day, and it'll be interesting to see his match fitness, but on his day is one of the most dynamic game-changing forwards in the league. Tavita Pangai Jr., if he pulls his head in, again, a game breaker. Pat Carrigan can't put a foot wrong. He's like an Isaiah Yeo. Probably not as good of a ball player as Isaiah Yeo, not as versatile in the positions that you can put him, but he's just solid. He does his job and he does it bloody well. You then look at the bench. Ben Teo starting to get some match fitness back. Joe Hoffa-Hengawi is an origin forward sitting on the bench. He's a gun. Reece Kennedy starting to get a little vein of form. I've already spoken about Isaac Luke. I think this is, and it sounds a bit weird saying it, but this is the strongest Broncos team that we have seen since the COVID break. I'm curious to see how Brodie Croft goes teaming with Dom Dearden for a full 80. Darius Boyd probably played his best game of the season last week. Granted, that's not that hard to do, but he looked good. Richie Kenner looked fantastic on the wing. Coates, always a high threat. And coming up against, well, let's see, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but if he comes up against Jackson Paulo, he's going to have the height advantage by a long way. Katoni Staggs. Now, granted, this is pending the integrity unit doing a bit of a dog shot on him, but assuming that he's allowed to play this week with what's come out in the media, and if you haven't heard, he's part of a revenge porn scandal that he has no, I'm not saying he has no defense. I'm trying to find the right word here, but he should be fine. Long story short, he should be fine. It's someone taking revenge against him. But he's back after a great performance last week. He has an opportunity to really stamp his mark on the game. I'm still going the Bunnies, knowing full well that I've hyped the Broncos here. But it's going to take the best of Damien Cook. It's going to take the best of Cody Walker, and it's going to take the best of Latrell Mitchell. If those 3 can work around and have a really good combination with Adam Reynolds playing his usual solid self, I see the Bunnies doing this, but it's going to be close. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what to give you for a betting tip right now. So, Mr. Matthew Wright, I'll let you take the reins on this one, but I think it's tighter than what everyone's going to predict.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, one of those early wins actually came against South Sydney pre-COVID. That was a 22-18 win, so 40 points in that one. So there could potentially be some points in this one as well. But I am going to go with South's 1-12 here. Like you mentioned, I think this one is going to be close. Worth noting as well, Campbell Graham signed a new contract with South this morning. I can see him potentially celebrating that new contract with a cheeky 4-pointer. So I think I lean towards South's 1-12 and Campbell Graham getting over, just simply because if you're going by the numbers, he comes up against Farnworth and Coates, who are both out and out wingers. But although Farnworth has played a lot of centre this year, he is a winger. His best position is winger, and he is a little bit defensively suspect when it comes to working those edges because he's so used to defending out wide. He almost positions himself as if he's still a winger. So all he does is offer up his inside shoulder to a centre. And Campbell Graham's not a player you want to be offering anything to. He's a long-rangey player who has a decent fend on him and can go over from 10, 15 out very easily. So that would be where I'd go for that. I'd go South's 1-12 with a Campbell Graham anytime try scorer.
So, look, this is tough. For the record, as of 5:06 on Tuesday afternoon, Sportsbet don't have the try scorer markets up, so I can't give you really accurate odds on that. If I had to hazard a guess, Campbell Graham anytime would be about 225. That I'm guessing that. Just keep that in mind when you are watching this. Bunnies 1-12 is 288 at the moment. I am going to go with a cheeky same game multi, paying $4.20. I'm going to say that it's going to be over 38.5 points. That pays $1.90 if you're doing these as singles. All as far as I can tell, the last 5 games have at least scored 40 points or more between these two. South Sydney, lowest scoring game of the last 5 is 28. 3 of the 5 have gone over. As for the Broncos, in their last 5, the lowest scoring game is 34 when they won against the Dogs. It's just a score-a-thon when the Broncos play. It doesn't matter who they come up against. Good team fighting for the 8 or down the bottom. So I'm going over 38.5. I think the Broncos give Souths a run for their money here, and I'm going to say that the Broncos are going to take the line. So Broncos plus 10.5 at $1.83. If you put that together in a same game multi on Sportsbet as of right now, it pays $4.20. I imagine that line may shift depending on team changes. If anything, I think the Broncos probably should come into about 350 on the head-to-head, which means the line will shift to about 8.5. So keep that in mind when you are doing that. But Broncos plus 10.5, it just feels like they're going to make this game a lot closer than one thinks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. I think that the Broncos have got a decent performance in them yet. So with that, then we will move to